Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you that have joined this EPBWN one-on-one interview with Princess Nwakego Ibrahim-Pam. I'm the founder and chairperson of the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network International. I know we have quite a new participants on this program, so I will talk a little bit about the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network International, how it started. The network started in 2013 in Tunisia when my husband relocated from the Netherlands to Tunisia. And when I got to Tunisia, I found that there was a lot of expatriate spouses who were well educated and well talented and were unable to work or to start their businesses. So we decided to come together as a group. And at the initial inauguration, we had 25 women from 18 countries. And what was the aim of the network? The aim of the network was for us to come together and be able to bridge the gap in our CVs, for us to be able to rebrand ourselves and also to be able to financially empower ourselves. But above all, to be a community for one another, to help with our mental
My
health
computer is about to die.
and emotional ability. Please, can everybody mute, please? So we're here today to celebrate a wonderful woman, and that's one of the activities that we do. This interview is just one of the programs that we've developed to help the women that we mentor listen to women who are leaders in their various positions around the world. So today we'll be having Dr. Emma Hadi Jadallah with us. She's a conflict prevention and mitigation expert, serving as an independent and impartial third-party mediator, facilitator, advisor, designer on dispute resolution processes. In that capacity, she provided technical advice and expertise on strategic initiatives aimed at strengthening global, international, national, and local capacities in conflict prevention and mitigation strategies. So I want to welcome this morning or afternoon here in Washington, D.C., Professor Emma. So I'm going to pin her up so you all can meet her. Professor Emma, here she is. You are welcome, Professor Emma. So please kindly introduce yourself and then let the audience get to say hello to you after your introduction. Then we start the interview. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Princess. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know some people had some technical issues. Hopefully, by the time we get started seriously with the questions, I'm very honored to be here. Thank you, Princess, truly for creating that space for women. I understand you've facilitated these conversations for quite some time. So my name again is Alma. Abdul Hadi is my maiden name and Jadallah is my married name. And I underscore this intentionally because in my culture, I am Palestinian, Jordanian, American. I had the pleasure of growing up in the Arab world. And it's very important for us, our family connections and who we are stay with us for years to come because we always believe we're ambassadors of our culture. I am, as Princess said, have been practicing conflict resolution and peace building for a significant number of years based on my educational background in conflict analysis and resolution. So I'm very pleased to share with you today whatever questions you may have or whatever questions Princess will facilitate during the conversation. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Where I am. Thank you, Emma. Thank you for that introduction. The purpose of this interview, like I discussed with you earlier on, is just for us to hear your stories so that we, as other women collaborating with you, watching you, that you're mentoring, can see how you've been able to successfully taking yourself to where you are right now as a woman. So can you tell us a little bit more about your educational background?
Thank you.
Can everybody unmute and just say welcome to Emma from wherever you're tuned in from? Can you just all say welcome to her?
Welcome, Emma.
Welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome, Professor.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to see familiar names, but also new colleagues that I will get to meet and hear from. This is wonderful. You asked about the educational background. So I started quite early at Jordan University. I studied English and philosophy. And I like to underscore that studying philosophy is a pillar in my education because it allowed me to think clearly about the world, how it's shaped, philosophical questions. I had a professor that really impacted me to think about the contributions of leaders, men and women thinkers around the world. And then I had a really long pause, which I'm very proud of, about 12 years of motherhood. And that was a period of time where you also contribute to the world a little bit differently by bringing up generations to contribute to the world. I say this because when I started my educational studies in the US, it was actually a bit of a challenge. I had forgotten what research is, how to write papers, how to really present myself in a classroom. I felt I was going to be the oldest person on earth. It was early in my 30s. But then when I went to the classroom, thanks to the American system of education, there were a significant number of people, younger, older, all shapes and forms, all ethnicities and backgrounds. So it was very exciting. But I have to admit that the first course was really, really challenging. It was just how to organize your thoughts, how to contribute, and also how to bring your voice to the conversation. The style of teaching was very different than where we grew up, where it was more prescriptive. And you learn over time how to really hear yourself contribute ideas. And my role became in the educational system while I was a student to bring a window into the world that I grew up in and to contribute to that. So I did a master's degree that was interdisciplinary. And then I applied for the PhD program. So I ended up with a degree, a doctorate in conflict analysis and resolution. And that is an interdisciplinary degree that's so important to understand because the whole idea of the founding fathers of this degree is that all the realism in the world and how the world has been resolving conflict had not worked. And we needed new ideas. So George Mason University was the first school, and I see some colleagues here who are graduates of the program. Mary Jo is one of them and a mentor for me, decided that we were going to bring all the knowledge that we can think about and put it together to understand how the root causes of conflict, how people interact, the dynamics between them, and how to serve as a third party, either as a mediator or like you today, a facilitator of important conversations to resolve issues dear and near to the heart, whether on interpersonal level, community level, national or international.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to be a guest speaker in your lecture this evening. It's really a privilege that I'll have the opportunity to speak to masters and doctorates students on diversity and Orientalism. That was it. I'm looking forward to such a discussion this evening. So thank you for that opportunity. And this just takes us to what the network is all about, networking and empowering each other. You know, the opportunity you're giving to me to come and speak to this student is a one in a lifetime opportunity that will empower me, that will give me the confidence that I need, that has opened new doors for me. Among the students I'll be speaking to this evening, I don't know who or which one of them will be somebody who may change the course of my professional career or academic career. So that's what is key in life, networking and meeting the right people at the right time. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you for accepting the invitation to come and speak on this interview with me. So as we've all heard about your family background and your educational background, I want you to walk us through your career, how you've been able to invest in women, and how being a woman in leadership, how have you used your leadership, to groom other younger women to come into leadership? And then through the leadership, how have you been able to break the glass ceilings that are very obvious for women in the workplace environment to get to the peak of their career? And then after that, we'll talk about the entrepreneurship and innovation for women, balancing professional growth and personal well-being. So in these lenses, I want you to tell us your story, how you've been able to achieve all this. And at the end of the interview, you will leave us with a word of thought, and you will share with us your inspiration and your impact.
Thank you, Princess, and we're looking forward to having you tonight at George Mason University to participate in the discussions. Actually, two people here today, Gay and Mary, have also been guest speakers sharing their experiences across the globe like you. So we're very, very honored to have you. Your question is multifold, but I cannot but answer it from a personal lens at the very beginning. Because if you want to be a woman leader, you have to really reflect on your own leadership style and who you are and the messages that you've had growing up. So there's a lot of stereotypes about Arab women, about our culture, about our background, about how we're not empowered, we have no agency. I had a completely different experience. I grew up where I was consistently reminded of women around me who stood up and who participated in civic space and were educators, etc. So it was a big responsibility on my shoulder, and I really believe it's important to pass the baton. First, to meet the expectations of your elders who believed in you and who believed that you could break the glass ceiling yourself, and then go from there and become an enabler for other women. So my first journey in the US was working in a corporation. And when I went in, I think then I was a master's student. And I have here on my wall a certificate of working with Women of Influence Award. It was granted to me, but it was also because I was part of enabling gender voices in the organization. And by that, I mean working on all levels of the organization, creating space for dialogue, creating space for people to provide input, coaching people on how, especially women who have been there, on how to amplify their voice in a system that wasn't necessarily close to them, but they had their own perceptions that it was closed. So creating processes for participation and allowing women to actually participate in projects, reminding people when they were missing, when they were not included. But you cannot do this really without building allies and having a network of supporters within the organization. So let me stop there because I realized you wanted to prompt me a little bit on one of your issues.
Yeah, I was just going to say congratulations for that achievement, for the award. And this is the kind of impact as women we all wish that we have in our different places of work. So, and if it's something that you can also share with us, or you can also replicate, because a lot of women are out there doing wonderful jobs and impacting their communities that are not even recognized. So if in any way we can go back to the grassroots to recognize these women who actually are on the field, that will be a great motivation and encouragement to them. Thank you so much for your work with us.
You're welcome. So you asked me to reflect on some stories. So during my work, I had the opportunity to travel to conflict zones, places where the whole systems were in total chaos. And what you find out in these places, that it's very important to do a little bit of an understanding of how people are operating in a chaotic environment where there is maybe lack of mobility, people are not able to move around, a lot of trauma, people have been impacted by wars, by conflict. And what you find out during the work that you do, that if you understand the local context and you understand where power generates, you could actually initiate a lot of change. So I give you an example from a real case in Yemen. And in Yemen, there was a national dialogue that was attended by 1,000 people every day. And I was one of the UN consultants on the ground facilitating. So we worked a lot with the women and women groups to amplify their voices, not because they weren't amplified already in their own community, but how to really bring their voices to areas where it did not happen before, with the international community being present. And with the presence of the United Nations, we were able to create different places for them to convene, different media coverage to speak to, but also more importantly, to understand from them and to have them speak about what they would like. I also worked in other areas on conflict prevention and mitigation, and it's very important to think about the role of women in prevention. And there were many stories that other colleagues who are present today on the call can have shared with me, these moments where we were looking about how the women intervened without any acknowledgement from anybody and without even being asked to either stop a heated argument in a community that's already very vulnerable, or how they coach the men in their community to wait a little before escalating things, or how to respond differently than just carrying arms and participating in the violence that is happening already on the ground. So there are many stories of being an enabler in a sense. You have to remember when you do the work that we do that the situations are not about us. It's about the people that we are working with, and it's about bringing those experiences, but also you learn how to listen deeply to what people are saying, and from there identify where the agency lies, and maybe be the sounding board for the women to kind of pass their ideas with you. And you could also bring the science and the best practices from other places, but help them translate them to the local context. It's very important that you don't bring things and throw them in another context without it being adapted or translated or actually changed in a way that it's meaningful for them. They can take what they think is relevant and they can leave what is not relevant. And so women's leadership really has been at the forefront. I think it's a cross-cutting issue. It's no longer the should be on our shoulders just to implement. So that has been a shift in my thinking. Initially, a lot of the gender work was set aside for women to work on, and the discourse was a bit of an outlier. But I think as you mature in your work, you realize that it should be actually a cross-cutting issue on all issues in society.
Thank you so much. You actually brought out a part of conflict, fragile states that is not well publicized or acknowledged. Women being the first respondent to a very fragile state by talking with their husbands and the men, and being like the mediators even before international or national mediators come on the scene. And so that's really important to know that before a full-blown conflict comes into view of the world, the women on ground have been trying their best to mitigate whatever conflicts going on in their community. And that is the core of what leadership should all be about. And thank you for your work in the fragile states and the war zones. It's not easy as a woman to go to such places. So what is it that gave you the courage? Why were you not afraid to go to such dangerous and uncomfortable zones of the world?
Yeah, I think being afraid may have been something that, because you just read the news and how the news reports about these regions around the world. And I'm not saying that the news is not correct or is misinforming you, but I don't know, I felt actually quite comfortable. Because for a number of factors. First of all, I was Arabic speaking, so the language is quite important and played a factor. Culturally, of course, the Arab world is very diverse. Yemen is not Jordan or not Palestine or not the US, right? So you find that there are differences, but there are commonalities. So I did my homework before going. I understood what I was facing. I prepared a lot. I also talked to a lot of colleagues before going, but I had confidence in what I brought to the table. I don't know how to say it differently. You have to have confidence that you are able to contribute, otherwise you shouldn't go. And you have to have confidence that the tools that you have may be of added value. If you don't think that way, then you're just using people's time without much integrity. So it's not about courage, it's about really confidence in the knowledge and in my education that being a third party when people have reached an impasse or it's not to tell them what they do, it's just to give them the tools, scientifically proven tools like dialogue, like facilitation, like mediation. And by the way, I'd like to say that it doesn't mean that these societies did not know how to problem solve. They've problem solved for centuries, especially as old as time. Yemen is as old as time, or any other conflict zones I worked in. But there are many factors sometimes that push people into tension, and for them to fight against each other, either identity issues or scarcity of resources. We don't have time to go all over them, but in general, I think people would like to live in peace and harmony, and there might be other factors that influence what is happening.
Thank you. Well said. Picking on self-confidence and skills, was that enough for you to venture into the men's world?
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. I get that question often. I find that my education opens a lot of doors for me. And someone told me this, and I really believe she was right. She said, they may not like what you say, but they cannot dismiss you because you've proven yourself through your education. So I thought that was an aha moment for me. You know, the thing is, I think we've all realized as women that you cannot do it alone and you need allies. I had my father and my husband and my son and my immediate relatives who believed in my capacity. And so it was very important for me to continue to show respect to the men, at the same time to be able to stand on my own and be assertive. At the same time, it doesn't mean that I didn't encounter some resistance, or when I spoke, somebody spoke over what I said or wasn't acknowledged. But these are small things. They shouldn't really dissuade you from being present. I think the first step is to be present. The second step is to be really equipped because you have to prepare. And when you don't know, you don't want to pretend what you don't know. You could ask questions respectfully. Sometimes the disadvantage for us is that we hadn't had the same entry points or experiences, or we didn't have advocates to promote our work. And that takes allyship. You have to develop a lot of friendships, a lot of networks, and you have to convince people that you are trustworthy and that you will meet their expectations. And one last point here I think is very important, which I learned from my colleagues, is to receive feedback and to take it seriously. So if you participate in a way that was not well received, you may want to reflect a little bit on why and seek some guidance. So when you participate next time, you know what to avoid. It doesn't take away from your authenticity, but it allows you to do course correction if necessary. On the delivery, maybe on who's in the room, preparing quite a bit is quite important.
Yeah. Thank you, Zachariah. Zachariah said, thank you, Professor, for sharing some aspect of your stories, but he has to leave now. So thank you for logging
Thank
in,
you,
Zachariah.
Zachary.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask the audience now, if you have any question, any follow-up, or any thing you want to say on behalf of Emma, you can unmute yourself and ask your question, share your thoughts, and then we can, for her to have a breather before we continue on breaking the glass ceiling, entrepreneurship, and then work-life balance. Any
Yeah,
questions?
I have a question.
Okay,
Yeah, Doc.
introduce yourself for her.
Yeah, my name is Nkechi Nazi. I'm speaking from Maryland in the US. I have a question about the conflict. Has there really been a time you guys got it, you and your team got it wrong, and you were able to go back and re-strategize and put things right, or I mean, just give us like a particular case where you were able to go back and, either do a reteach or, put things right. I don't know if you get my question.
Yeah. Thank you. It's an excellent question. How do you do you do things always right the first time? And when you don't do them right, what do you do? I'm gonna try to think of an example, but the first one that comes to mind, when you work in corporations, you have to understand that you need the political will of an organization to initiate change. Even if you have the best people with you who are energized and to want to change things, you really need to do a bit of mapping. We call it mapping, but actually looking and understanding who has the authority. So one thing I started one time, actually didn't catch at the time, I was trying to convince an organization to do an assessment of who are the informal leaders in the organization and who are influentials, who can initiate the change that we wanted. And I remember taking it to the VP, the vice president. She was a woman, by the way. And she just didn't get it. She said, why would we do this exercise? We have human resources. We have the employee networks. And I said, but this is not where people go. People go to somebody like Princess, who they believe in her wisdom, or people might go to my colleague here, Mary Jo, who I know very well, has been a leader of institutions for a long time. People go to a trusted source. They might also go to people who look like them or haven't relate to them ethnically, religiously, or even just on a social status. It didn't go well, but later, they also did not welcome the idea of initiating a mediation process. And it didn't happen. None of these two suggestions. But later, you never know, you plant the seeds and you may not be the person who initiates the change. I'm really proud to say that the organization later on, thanks to other colleagues who stayed behind, realized some of that, and they opened different levels of dialogue. But also the legal department started thinking, well, this is becoming too expensive. Let's think of initiating mediation. And the head of legal, who initially resisted all of this, and I'm still in touch with him, said, I went and got mediation training. You intrigued me by educating us on mediation, even though we didn't implement it at the time. So what I'm trying to say is, sometimes your own ideas may not be launched by you, but you plant, literally the correct metaphor is planting the seeds for them. And you place the idea there, and it may not be ready for adoption, but people later, somehow, miraculously, I don't have all the details because sometimes you're never there, but things take place, and people think the timing is quite important for ideas. But this is an excellent question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And what I got from your explanation is that you may plant the seed, but it's other people that may implement your idea. And so it's always so good for us not to hold back our ideas because we think we're not in a position to execute it. Plant the seed and let other like-minded people come along the way to have a foundation to build. And thank you, Professor. Is there any other question or anybody want to say anything?
Yes, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, please. Who is speaking? Introduce yourself.
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you clearly.
Okay. So this question to Dr. Alma, given her extensive experience in conflict resolution, I would love to hear about her latest work in corporate settings. How does conflict resolution in corporate environment compare to what she always do, the training and field work and teaching have done in the past? Have you noticed any key differences in the challenge in that in the recent approach that required?
Thank you, Roba. I should say Roba is one of, she has an excellent story of coming back to school. She's a former student of mine, but also a colleague now. Good to have you here, Roba. Okay, so you're mentioning what I've noticed in corporate. I think people's expectations have changed. And there is no more, I've done a lot of work in corporations, and Ruba is aware of this. Corporations, when it comes to problem solving, they usually have a unit that they call HR, and they're creating an environment for people to go state their grievances. But I think what we are observing more and more, that people, thanks to education and thanks to increased awareness, that it's not, the problem should not be solved top down, but actually bottom up. So you find that corporations now are facilitating more mediation programs in their units. They also have identified a trusted employee that people can go to. He or she may be a trusted source. Also, they're training people in more dialogue and facilitated processes. And they're also bringing the sciences more into how to speak to their employees. Again, I've seen a shift from top down to more collaborative participatory processes. The question really at the end of the day is risk management, because people usually and many times have grievances because there are very little opportunities either for growth or to be allocated positions, or there is a lot of identity conflicts in the workplace that happen that are not necessarily happening at the corporation, but happening because of international issues around the staff, etc. So creating the space has been a very important tool that corporations are adopting. Of course, I can't speak to the whole world, but at least in the US, a combination of science, our field itself, I'm sure many of you would agree who have studied it, we've mushroomed quite a bit and have shown up in different spaces. And we have more and more students graduating and working in these spaces. And I believe truly that they have introduced a lot of the tools that they have learned. So it's not one factor, Roba, I think it's multiple factors. On training, I think training is a tool of prevention, because when people are trained and they get educated, then they are better equipped, assuming they have the willingness to use what they learn. But most people actually appreciate getting training. So corporations, if they want to think prevention, they should bring speakers, experiences, do a lot of training, a lot of preventive work. And then if something happens related to identity politics at the workplace, or scarcity, or a shift because of a dramatic event, they should have the tools and are providing tools of facilitation and mediation and problem solving. I hope I answered your question, Roba. Did you have another dimension around it that you'd like me to address?
Actually, no, this is really good, because I was really want to see the balance, how it works. And you did it, you answered very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Roba.
Yeah. Emma, I have a follow-up question though. With your experience in international organizations around the world, how do you think, or what has been your experience with this international organization in conflict resolution, especially since such international organizations are a melting point for multiculturalism and nationality? So how do you think for your years in international organizations that these organizations have been able to put in place a multicultural dimension to conflict resolution within those institutions?
Yeah, I think this is an important question because of the global nature of the work that they do, and like you mentioned, the population. For example, in the US, we live in a very diverse culture with our neighbors, with our friends, in our schools, etc. But corporations have a special nature, right? Because they have a mission and a vision that they have to accomplish. So they expect a lot of alignment around that. But that is not a bad thing necessarily, because what happens here, if people have an overarching goal and if the managers are well trained and the staff knows how to participate, there are great opportunities to resolve. So what I'm observing is that they are, first of all, acknowledging that there are a lot of differences amongst people and not sugarcoating them and saying we're just all employees in one place. They are acknowledging the differences by honoring multiculturalism, by special occasions to celebrate people's holidays, traditions, etc. And that's, on the cultural side. But on the practical side, I think what they are trying to do is to bring employees who are working in problem solving in the organization that people could identify with. And I think that's very, very important. So when you have an issue and you're offered a mediator or you're offered a facilitator, it's so important to really be very much aware of who you select to serve in that role. There is a bit of an echo, I think.
Yeah.
It's okay to serve in that role. And so in a multicultural environment, it's very important that the people who are actually intervening in the organization, people could relate to them. They're multicultural enough and come from different backgrounds. So people have options to work with people that they think will understand their worldview, their values, where they're coming from.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Any other person wants to share anything before we move we'll move Emma to her impact as a mediator? Anybody want to add? Okay, since everybody's satisfied and enjoying the part of your story.
I
So
think there's a question.
okay, sure. Where is it?
Yeah. Somebody typed a question.
Please. Oh, is it?
Okay. I can talk where okay, I can't talk when education is key, and okay, let me start from the beginning. Thank you for drawing my attention to it.
Yeah, it is really not a question. Hi, it's Lucille.
Okay.
Not a question, because where I am, I was wondering if I can speak. It is
Yeah.
just a comment to say that I really appreciate this opportunity to hear this story that resonates to me.
Yeah.
And I'm listening where I can talk, and I want to let you know that what you said about the role of leaders is really very important, and also the women role for peace building. So it's a little comment, and really appreciate the story she shared. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Lucia.
Yeah, there's a question on how do you ensure that the conflict does not repeat itself or something like that.
Okay.
I read the question.
So, Emma, how do you ensure that conflict do not reoccur after you've mitigated?
Okay, so why would it occur again? That means you didn't mitigate it correctly. So in our discipline, we really believe that you have to meet people's basic needs, meaning the need for respect, for acknowledgement, and you don't want to mitigate the conflict by putting a Band-Aid on the hurt or on the grievance that people have. So when conflicts occur or recur, and don't get closure, it could be for a number of things. First of all, that the people who agreed to close the issues at some point agreed maybe under pressure or under a certain place and time. But then when you really, if it comes back, it may come back either on the same issues or that something changed in their environment that added a new issue to the grievance. So for example, if you come and say, this person has hurt me, and you conduct a very simple mediation between two people, and they apologize to each other, and they say, oh, I'm all good right now, but then after a few days, this person comes and say, see, I told you this person is vicious. Now, not only he or she hates me, now her whole community is talking badly about me. So it's either a breach of confidentiality, it's either a behavior that had happened. I mean, I gave a very simple example, but when things really do not get closure, of course they recur again or they come back again because people did not feel that they got what they wanted. Everybody should leave a negotiated agreement or a way by which they reconciling the difference, really feeling good about it. If they don't feel good about it, they resent the other person or then find a way to come back to it. It could be even after years. we don't know. I mean, we don't have a concrete example, but these are the types of behaviors we have seen, or agreements that have been faulty, did not address what people wanted to resolve fully.
Thank you for that. Just a follow-up on Mafeng's question. Mafeng asked that question. So is it in every situation of conflict resolution that both parties must feel good? Is resolving conflict being about feeling good or about doing the right thing?
Oh, excellent. That's a $1 million question. So you as a third party, when you are the mediator or the facilitator, it's not up to you to decide what is satisfactory for them. But we have tools to keep asking questions, and we meet with people separately to make sure they evaluate their choices of action and if they should accept what's being offered or not. I think what's also important to think about is that what satisfies you may not satisfy other people. And so the measure of satisfaction is totally to the parties. Now, this is a very Western idea because in our parts of the world, a lot of people are not single actors, right? We belong to a larger collective group. So sometimes the dissatisfaction is not, or satisfaction is not about you, but actually the community you represent. So there is a balance there. And then on the word, what is right and what is wrong, as you know, of course, there are universal values we all commit to. But there is also, you'll be surprised, sometimes when you travel a lot, what is right for you may be wrong for other people. So as a mediator or as a third party, you have to really study the context you're going to and to probe a lot to kind of understand what constitutes something that is right for people and what does right look like. I know it sounds a bit philosophical, but you can't just do it as a black and white issue. You will find there's always gray areas that you need to discuss with people, that you need to unpack, you need to get clarity on, you need to understand to be able to lead the parties to discuss it more openly, to kind of identify the wrong, the hurt. So people need to, the word happy is a bit of a tricky word, right? Because who measures your happiness? Nobody but you.
Yes.
But at the same time, what you are trying to do is maybe you want people to leave satisfied with what they got. And what's the measure for this? They got for themselves and maybe for their communities, or they got for themselves alone. But again, you have to be very careful. You are not the measure here.
Yeah. So,
I hope the question is a satisfactory way for you.
Yes, it is. I just wanted to ask another one. Is restitution also part of resolution?
Yes.
And how
It's a bit,
restitution help mediate conflict?
Yeah, it depends on the complexity of the issue. So if you have a community that is harmed, that is hurt, restitution for a few thousand people doesn't happen overnight, correct? What you need to do, I think, and to be in clear conscience, is not to encourage people to agree to an agreement that cannot be implemented and does not have the structures around it to support it. You don't want just words on paper. You want things that support the implementation and the activities. So restitution, of course, is very, very important. And restitution may take different forms. So as a third party or as a mediator, you really try to understand what does that look like for the person who is hurt or who is trying to restitute, bring their life back together. Now, if you're working on international conflict, politics is a huge part of it. You have less control over things. The best and the most ideal in our mind is always when people talk to each other directly and solve issues directly in goodwill and good faith. But there are many times where they cannot. So outsiders like us, professionals, or somebody like you who is well established in her community, people may come to you and you facilitate the conversation. But again, it's a loaded question, really. It's not easy to answer. And we don't have complete examples where restitution was 100%, but people work towards it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This is so interesting. We can keep going on and on and on because some of us are from conflict countries where it's important for us to have an understanding, even in our own small position and capacity, to be able to resolve conflicts and to be able to be a tool if needed in our various communities or even in our families. It's an essential tool. So maybe behind the scene, instead of coming to interview you, we'll organize a program where you speak on conflict resolution within the family and community so that the different members of the network around the world will tune in and to just be a workshop, and then women will be free to ask questions on the different situations they're facing in their individual homes or in community. Would that be okay with you?
Thank you, Princess. I would also, it's an honor to do that, but we can also enrich the workshop with other colleagues on the call who also have incredible experiences. So I'm happy, you mentioned the word network. I'm happy to facilitate the network that I have to support your work as we move forward.
Thank you. So we'll create a panel of speakers that will be able to address this issue on a broader stage. And so thank you so much. So if there are no other questions, follow up or
actually, excuse me, Princess.
Okay.
This is Mary Jo Larson. I'm a very I am in such awe of my colleague Alma. She mentioned in the beginning that she thinks I mentored her, but I'm listening to you, Alma, and I'm so touched by your authenticity. I mean, you mentioned the features of that contribute to success, and definitely you are someone who is trustworthy, very present, very thoughtful, and very experienced. And I'd like to touch on the experience you have, not just at the personal level, but understanding institutions and international institutions, because I think in our work, we've become very conscious of the fact that women's voices are not represented at the policy level, where it makes a tremendous difference in the local environment, in health services. So my question to you is, could you please help people understand, with your own experience working with an institution that is part of the World Bank, how the structures are set up so that from the beginning, when there is a project, there's an understanding of shared objectives and the ethics involved and the process that people will go through so they understand that it's not just a matter of fairness and transparency and responsibility, but the word accountability. So when there's a question about a possible violation, can you help people to understand how important governance structures are? So there's actually a procedure that can be followed, just so that they have some sense of the amount of work that goes into conflict prevention. And then if in fact there is a violation, a way of following up that really carries weight. I'm sorry that was a very long question, but I feel as if because of your background and your expertise, if you could touch on that, everyone would surely benefit.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
First of all, Mary Jo, thank you. I'm here within my personal capacity, so I just want to underscore that. So in a multilateral organization that I work for, the issue of governance, of course, is important. And if you may recall, Mary Jo, when we started working together on a project related to it, what you had said there was really how governance, meaning policies and rules, of how the groups will interact together is one way for prevention. It's almost thinking ahead of time before you take any action. And it dictates the relationship between a structure, a hierarchy, people working together, whether it's a flat or a horizontal or hierarchical organization. It's so important that if you think this step, I'm confirming what I learned from you, even though we're now publicly exchanging compliments, is that governance is like it's like how should I say, it's the backbone of any image you have for how people should interact together. I mean, the only metaphor I can think of, if you build a house without the right foundation, the house you may still live in it, but any storm can destroy it for you very quickly. I hope it's the right metaphor, but that's the first one that comes to mind. And so the governance, if you are in an institution that has a broad mission, or if you're in just a small unit, how people have agreed to work together, whether on the principles of their interaction, on their relationships to each other, on who's allowed to participate where and how and why, and who's missing. Even the governance might say, if you're missing X and Y and Z, here's where you go get it. If you're missing X component of the organization, here's where you should look. So definitely it's the backbone of everything we do. And when it's weak and vulnerable, people either use it to their advantage, but if it's strong, it protects everybody. So if Alma is the weakest of a group of 10, the governance system can assure me that I would be protected. But if it's weak, anybody who has more power than me can manipulate it and violate my presence or my contribution. So it's so important to think of it. Thank you for bringing it up, Mary Jo. It's inherent in how I think, thanks to the work that we've done together, but I didn't articulate it enough. So thank you for drawing my attention to its importance for this audience.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This is a 45 to 1 hour interview. And for the last 45 minutes, you've shared your life's journey through the work you do. And so we just want you to share with us some of your future aspirations in this field of mitigation in fragile states, and leave a word with us that we can take home with, so close to us. And as we encounter conflicts, both in our personal and collective lives, that we'll be aware of the steps to take to be able to resolve those conflicts in ways that both parties will be happy. Let me use that word, to be happy to continue relationships beyond what's after the conflict. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I think what comes to mind very quickly, it's a very important question, is not to throw away indigenous methods of problem solving that our elders and generations have utilized in the past. But we have more science now, we have more knowledge, we're more literate, we have, some of us have more access. So what you want to do is, my aspirations is to bring the knowledge to wherever I can, me and my colleagues, because I love to work collaboratively to these places, not because they don't know. I think you want to uncover the ideas that people have to resolve issues. They probably thought about it, but the conditions are not allowing for. And then the second thing is the values that you bring. If you're going to work in the field and help others, and others help you understand, you have to have a complete clarity on your values going in. Of course, the one that we all agree on is to do no harm. The second one is to be authentic. And finally, to have the ability to learn. You cannot go in with a lot of too much confidence. You have to go in with a lot of humbleness, because you will learn quite a bit. There isn't a recipe. It's really a process that helps people come to the table or initiate the change that you want, with your help or without your help. So you have to think of how to support that or create the conditions that people can get what they need.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Emma. I want to say thank you for accepting the invitation to come to speak to us today. I speak on behalf of all the ladies and men that have logged into this interview to say it's been an interesting 1 hour with you. It's been a thought-provoking encounter with you. It's educative, it's knowledgeable, and I love the ambience of how you've presented the ideas about conflict in fragile countries. And I hope that those of us who logged in today will picked 1 or 2 things that will empower us to be better mediators and mitigators wherever we find conflicts in our lives. So I want to say thank you to you, Emma. I'm really privileged and I'm honored, and looking forward to seeing you later on in the day as I also come and give my lecture. I hope it will be as interesting and as challenging as yours has been with me today. So thank you, every one of you that have logged in. I want to use this opportunity to just say thank you for coming, sparing time to come and share this hour with me and Emma. I want to use this opportunity to tell you a little bit more about the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network. This month, April, will be 11 years. And so on the 20th of April, we'll be having a launch of a book called Leadership in Diaspora, The Making of the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network International. We'll be launching the book that tells the story of how this network started in Tunisia in 2013. We'll be telling this, you'll be reading about the leadership, how I've been able to lead this network for the past 11 years from remote positions around the world, and how technology, women, everybody involved in the network has made it successful up to this point. And so we'll be having a celebration of life for the network. Keeping something going for years is not an easy task. So you are all invited to come and share the day with us, to hear the stories of all the women who have been part and parcel of this network, their contributions, and where they are today, where they were before they joined the network, and what they have become, and the impact they are making in their different communities. So once the flyers and the program has been concluded, I'll be inviting you. Please don't be tired of my invitation, because in life, we need to create a community for ourselves, a safe community at that. And so the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network International is a safe haven for women around the world. We come, we empower ourselves, we create opportunities for ourselves, we interact with one another. But every woman needs a safe community. And in this community, you're not overtaxed, it's free, there are no financial obligations, there are no guidelines. You just come, share your story, share your expertise, encourage one woman, be a mentor to one woman. If there are job opportunities, we share with one another. If we all have our businesses or professional careers, we patronize one another. Because I say to women, we can't say we want to empower each other, and you know that one of the members is a lawyer, and then you leave that member and go and look for an outside lawyer to do a job that you pay for. Why not use the woman within the network, pay her, so that you improve her life and provide for her a financial independence? That is what we do in this network. We use the services of members here for all the projects and services are provided on this network. I do not go outside the pool of the members of the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network. Every woman that works with me has been and will be a member of the network, because charity begins at home. You cannot talk about empowerment and then you empower people outside your community, outside your family, and outside your friendship. So we start from home. So when you see my invitation, don't get tired, join us, be a friend, and we are looking for resource people that will come and train, just as I've invited Emma to come and train us. I'm sorry, I just wanted to add her back again. To help train us on conflict resolution. Whatever you want to present, just send me an email, send me a text message. We're going to organize a program in collaboration with the network. So this is an open platform where you can also share your expertise, get your visibility, empower women without having to incur any financial or physical strain. Thank God for digital technology. Everywhere in the world, people will log in if what you're selling, they want to buy. So we need to sell things that are profitable, that that shifts the mind, that creates a growth mindset for people who we interact with. So without much ado, I want to say thank you once again to Emma. Thank you. And for all of you who tuned in from different parts of the world, I am grateful. Looking forward to seeing you next weekend, next Wednesday, with another powerful woman on a different topic. And by the end of the year, I'm sure those of you who would have followed me through this journey of one-on-one interview, your life would have been enriched through the information and educative materials that you would have gotten working with me from throughout this year. Thank you and God bless. Can you all unmute and just say thank you to Emma, and then see you.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Alma.
Thank you.
much. Thank you very much. Very enlightening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Princess. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Victoria.
Thank you.